Where are we? Let's talk improv if we can't do it.
I can share. I can share a little bit of things I've been thinking about lately.
Okay.
Ooh.
So as we were talking, all of us before all this went down, we were talking about, were we growing? Were we improving? Like, how did we feel about the way our improv was going? Because, we've been doing this for a year now. I've been doing it twice a week for a year. And, as we were talking about, like, how are we doing? How are we getting better? Are we improving? And, we had that really great 2 or 3 sessions where we all were able to talk about it and really open up and get great feedback of where we were. Then this all stopped. And when everything stopped, I went out and I started watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and I got the UCB manual, and I started reading that. And I wanted to read. There was one paragraph in here I wanted to read because it really opened me up to a lot of things. It says, if you serve the game will serve you. Once you have found the game, you will no longer have to worry about where the scene is going or what the scene will take you next. You can instead focus on coming up with funny scenes that fit your game. And this is where your comic voice will be heard. And so I read the whole manual, but that one paragraph really jumped out at me because it was everything that Ben and Barry and Casey, Ben, Barry, and Aaron, and even you, Tom, were really talking about, find the scene, find the game. What are you doing? And I started to put it together, well, how can that, so in business, there's the saying, you either can work in your business or you can work on your business. And if you're working in your business, you're usually sweeping the floors and building boxes and telling people what to do. And you're so focused on running the day-to-day operations that you miss a lot of the opportunities of business because you're so in it. Whereas if you are looking at your business from, you want to work on your business, you're growing the business from the outside. You're looking at your business objectively and saying, well, how can I grow my business? As opposed to being so stuck in your business. And I started thinking, well, maybe that it's got to be the same way with improv, where I think a lot of the insecurities I was having was I was so much in the scene and not really looking at the scene of how do I improve the scene or how do I make the scene better. And so I've been thinking nonstop about that. I need to focus on looking at the scene of how do I make my partner better and how do I make the scene better and what is the game of the scene and how do you work to make that come out. And so I can't stop thinking about it. I'm almost rejuvenated of can't wait to get back. And I started watching a lot of the YouTube videos that I've watched of fuck that shit in a lot of the groups. But this time I was watching them to see if I could recognize the game that they were seeing. So I was watching the videos again, but totally different. And I was amazed because I'm watching a lot of their scenes, and usually within the first minute, you can see where the game is. And a lot of times I was realizing, oh wait, that's the game. And it was the same time that the actors or the guys on stage were realizing that was the game. And to see watching them the second time and getting a completely different reaction from myself of watching it objectively has been really, really cool. And it just brings me back to I remember that scene where you guys were doing on stage, Casey and Tom, you were both in it, where you were selling the chicken by the meter. Remember that scene? And you turned it into Costco. And it was really cool because everybody on your team knew that was the game of that moment. And so I've been thinking just a lot about that. And I read the whole manual, and I can't wait to get back up and start really just trying to look at the scenes objectively from the outside of saying, how can I make this better? Or what can I do to add to the scene?
Okay. Any other thoughts about what Lee just said?
I mean, it sounds pretty deep. It sounds, when he was reading that thing, almost sounded like some sort of Bible verse, and that's way deeper than I've ever thought about any of it. I think that's awesome, Lee. I had a thought about you the other day, which was weird because I don't think about you a lot. But the other day, I thought about how you, like, whatever anyone teaches you, whether it, any teacher you ever had, the minute they teach you something, the following class, you just dive right into it and you do exactly what they tell you. And I used to think that maybe you didn't have like a natural ability for something like this, but then now I realize that you're a very hard worker at it, and you really like take good to teachings. And I had like a thought, like, he probably one day would be a really good improver.
Thank you, Dan.
Of course, while I was thinking about this, you were in underwear, and you had like that's my own.
Knew it. I knew it.
Well, anyone else before I jump in?
Well, yes, I cut you off. Sorry, because I thought I started recording this, which I didn't. But that's very insightful, Lee. And I think that I feel like you're like getting it. Not that I get it completely, but I feel like you just like put all the pieces together. It took like a minute to step back and like look at it all, but once you did, you kind of just sorted it all together and put the pieces together.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I don't. Here's the thing. That is definitely the way UCB does improv. And if you're going to study with UCB, that's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn, if you don't find the game, there's no point. To them, fishing is about already having a fish on the line before you put it in the water. I don't see it that way. David Rosowski doesn't see it that way. And so what we've been trying to do is to recognize there's going to be a game. It's going to be a scene as a game. I mean, what the hell else are we doing up there? We're not doing Hamlet. So there's going to be a game. There's going to be something that you have to, that shiny object that we talk about, which is, I guess, another way of saying a game. But what we have been doing, and what someone like Dave Rosowski does, is to live in the moment, to not be outside the scene looking in, judging. Is to, because all you're going to do when you do that is shtick. You're going to do funny shtick, and there's plenty of reason to do funny shtick. There's nothing bad about it, but there's more, and what we've been doing is just be real. Look for what's really happening, connect with your scene partner, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing more to it than that. And so if you're looking at for the game, you're not there. You're either in the moment or you're watching the moment. So you've got to do both at the same time. You've got to be the puppet and the puppeteer at the same time. You've got to be as good a puppet as you can be, and then occasionally it's like, oh, I see, I get it. The thing that the metaphor that I always use is that you're in a rowboat or a ship in the fog, and you don't know which direction you're rowing in because you can't see anything. You just row, and the other person has an oar on the other side of the boat, and they row, and you row, and you row, and you row, and you don't know why, until finally you get past the mist, and in the distance there, oh, there's the land there. Oh, got it. Let's go there. So now you've got your direction. But if you're just going to decide in this boat, the land's there, well, then guess what? You're not going to be surprised by what you find. You're not going to be surprised. What you're going to find is exactly what you thought you should find. And you're not going to get that wonderful feeling of, holy shit, what the hell just happened? You're going to get planned it, executed it. And for some kinds of improv, absolutely, you do have to do that. For short form, you have to do that. For this, it's a little less defined. You're still doing it, but only a small part of your brain is doing it. The rest of your brain is busy being a human being. And if you can figure out how to be Spock and Kirk at the same time in your head, neither one of them is the right way. You can't ignore everything and just be in your own head and your own emotions in the middle of scenes. That's bullshit. That's just self-serving bullshit. It's masturbatory. Sorry. And you also can't be the person standing in the back saying, okay, I get this. It's going to be a car wash and I'm going to accidentally roll the window down. Cool. And what's going to happen at the end? I'm going to get wet. What a surprise. No. So it's both. That's the hard part.
Of all of it, you have to be present in the scene to be a human in the scene while still trying to look for everything else in the scene, you're saying?
Yes, you have to be present. Right. But as you were saying, which is correct, you also have to, you can't just, it's not just you putting on a show for mommy and daddy. And they'll applaud no matter what you do. You know, you've also got to be aware there's a game being played here. And the game, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think there's some of the things that are really helpful is that if you just react based off of how you feel, whenever you're doing something in a scene, if you just react however you feel at the time that you're feeling that, and you try not to add more details or kind of bullshit or exposition into your scene. So if the feeling that you feel is, ow, that hurt, that can be your whole scene for 15 minutes if it needs to be. Because ow, that hurt can be repeated, but it's not necessarily, in Rosowski's words, redundant.
Right.
If you're still hurt, continue to be hurt. That in itself will become a game because you're starting to find different ways to say the same thing over and over and over until you discover what the next, and where Joe Bill will say, this is the next, things changed. This will be the next,
Whoops.
This will be the next step once we meet that. So it's my hands are not visible to
Sorry
do
about that.
that thing with my filter. No, that's a me thing. So Joe Bill teaches about where we meet here, and then we come up here, and we meet, and we come up here. So you're not necessarily going anywhere. It's just that when you're in a scene, if you slow down and you just pay attention to how you feel, all the other details, all the other exposition, all the other shit is already there. You're just discovering it once you figure out how the two of you feel about each other. And that'll end up becoming that game that UCB talks about.
Now here, I'm sorry. I tried to share this just now, but fuck it, I'll just read it to you. I'm looking at the other screen. I'm looking at Dave Brzezowski, and I'll quote, life, the product is the process. I've developed a simple approach to improvising. Your present awareness is the only thing you need to create compelling, smart, truthful, and surprising scenes, period. No games, no preconceived premises, no ideas, no egos. All that matters is now. And that's the weird thing about this Tao of Improv class is that that's the only message that I've ever tried to get across, and I think I've tried to get it across 1,000 different ways, because I tried 1,000 different analogies or metaphors or tricks or whatever, because it's a very difficult message. It is not. It's. I got you in one sec. It's like saying, "Hey, I watched a magician saw a woman in half the other day, and all I need is a really sharp saw." No, there's something going on else, and you need to know that, and it's not obvious. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrea. I mean, Jeremiah. There you are.
So are these like different methods of improv, or are it's just the approach is different?
They're different approaches. Well, what's the difference between a method and approach? They're different approaches. They can live together. The people on this who are watching this are watching you invent something, and they see that you are inventing it, and they're watching how you do it, not where you wind up. It's like figure skaters. I mean, those motherfuckers could get from one end of the ice to the other a lot quicker if they didn't do all that spinning around shit. But the spinning around shit is what is the purpose of it. It's not how to get from the blue line to the other fucking blue line. It's all the shit in the middle. And
not the fastest way, it's the most beautiful way.
Well, yeah. I mean, no.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's also surprising, you know.
That's Lauren for 300.
You can sum it up in 1 or 2 paragraphs. Try to get people to do it, including me. Try to remember to do it. Try to figure out how to do that simple thing. You know, it's like saying, hey, you know, the purpose of life is to be good. What the fuck does that mean? Does be good mean if I'm driving down the road, I should stop to let you out of a parking lot ahead of me?
Yes.
Even though it causes a 4-car accident behind me.
Oh.
Well, you see, that's why you can't just say be good.
Yeah.
You got to have rules. So that's just the way it is. I'm glad you said this, because this is the essence of what we're doing, and you're you're kind of tiptoeing in both ways of doing it. And I think UCB people, true UCB people, I don't mean Barry, who's been exposed to a lot of other stuff, but a lot of UCB people don't buy this shit at all. They don't buy it at all. They're in a scene, and if a game doesn't pop up in 15 seconds, they don't know what the fuck to do. And they'll force it. They'll make it pop up. Unfortunately, Barry doesn't. He's because he's smart, and he's done this, and he's taken Rosowski's courses, so he knows.
Is there sea people?
Say again?
Is there sea people?
Yes, mermaid.
Like A, B, C? Like meaning...
Oh, sure. Oh, there's all different kinds, sure. Yeah. Mermaids. Sea people, get it. That's good. I see dead bodies.
That was quick.
Yeah, we do Little Mermaid improv. That's level 6.
Yeah.
Are there little people?
Yes.
Yes.
That's lowercase m.
So you're saying, is there something other than this? Is it just like a dichotomy between 2 things, or is there a bunch of different things? There's a bunch. I mean, annoyance has a thing that's kind of their thing, which you'll find mostly down at Just the Funny.
The Groundlings.
The Groundlings have their thing, which is it's a very game oriented.
I think
high
the Groundlings
energy
is the most unique of all the forms that are out there.
Which one?
They're very into characters. The Groundlings. They've been around for a very long time.
They're the ones that do the beer shark mice that you've seen Tom put together with you guys, I'm sure, a few times.
Did anyone here see the movie Pacific Rim?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I know what it is, but I didn't see it.
I thought the movie was pretty awesome, actually. But in the movie, right? So I don't know why I made me completely think of improv, but so 2 people have to get into this giant machine. It's way bigger than them. They have to combine brains to make this machine maneuver and fight these creatures that are coming out from the center of the earth or a portal, whatever stories. But the thing is that the 2 people have to combine their brains to create this machine to work and fight. And the thing of it was, like, whatever you bring into the drift, it's called, you drift together, your brains combine. Whatever you bring into the drift, you have to let go and just be part of the drift. And it made me think of improv, because when you get up there, the 2 people, the 2 brains are going to kind of combine, and it's almost like whatever you're going to bring into it, kind of you got to leave out of it and just be in the moment, because that's what the great thing of the in the movie Moving the Robot is. And it made me think of improv, because like, you know, my shit and the way I am and the way I've always been and all my things, I'm going to use a piece of it, but it's not going to have to be the full me all the time, and that's all I can create. I'm going to leave that out, and I'm going to create the scene from whenever someone else is in there with me, you know? So the scene isn't about what I'm bringing into it. It's about what we create together. When our minds come together, what we create. And it just kind of like, I don't know why it made me think of improv, but the fact that I had to let go of stuff in order to be really good at what I had to do kind of hit home with me.
I like the movie better now.
That was great, Dan. I've seen that movie 10 times and I never even put it in that perspective, but that was great.
They were actually going to call that movie Beer Shark Mice, but there were complaints.
They got a cease and desist.
Yeah.
John's watching sports.
You've got the best microphone of any of us, and you're not.
You are really? Oh, shit. To an extent, and I guess as you can tell from the way.
Okay, I'm cutting you off, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's cool.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So, I mostly react to everything anyway, and that's why I think that I agree with that more. But trying to, like you said, dealing with having Barry on Wednesdays and you on Thursdays at the time did help, seeing it from both sides. And I think on one show that we did, I think before all this went down, like we were able to figure out a way to use what we've learned from both. And I felt like that was great, and I would like to still figure out a way to combine both.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it is about the game, like you were saying, but it's also like what you're saying, it's reacting, and that's what I do, at least. It's also part of it, and doing it with Lee and Dan is completely different. You gotta do it with the person. It changes, I guess, the scene, and seeing who's like I'm still struggling what I do best. I'm not sure yet, like what I'm good at exactly. I mean, I know I react, but I don't know where I fit.
Good. That's good that you don't know, because why would you want to specialize? When you specialize, you limit yourself. You know, which John, I mean, if you want to know what it is that you do well, one of the things that you do well is that you are in the fucking scene, and I believe every fucking word that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
Amen.
And if that fuck, I know improvisers who've been doing this for 20 fucking years who can't say that about themselves. They really can't, because they weren't told that it was important to be believed. They were just told it was important to be funny. So, so if you're looking for a thing that where you fit is, if you're in a scene, it's going to work because you're paying attention to what's going on, and you are molding yourself into what's needed in the scene. So to me, that's a compliment.
Hey, Tom, you got to let Ellen into the chat.
Oh, shit. I've been looking. Oh,
Whoa.
hang on. There we go.
Wait.
We hear you.
Hey.
Hi, guys.
Hey. We're all going to bed now.
Yeah.
Set an alarm.
I'm just waking up.
Ellen's been at the club all
yeah.
day.
I was out at the club. Actually, I had to rescue a bird.
Naturally.
Me too.
You were contractually obligated to rescue a bird, or
Obligated.
obligated, as birds say.
Yeah, so what'd you guys do
Obrigado.
tonight?
What's that?
What'd you guys do tonight?
Good for you.
Well,
we figured we figured out
trashed the
improv.
shit out of Lee, and no,
Aw, no.
Sorry,
absolutely
Lee.
not.
Okay.
Ellen, we solved it. We figured out improv. It's
Yeah.
fixed.
Yeah,
Dunzo.
it's either red
over.
pill or blue pill. Got to pick one.
Wait, shoot, that was all I was working on this week was solving I was doing that this week. It was my whole talk. Did you hear my rant on Facebook, anybody?
I did. I said that's probably why you were late. You're still ranting.
Ah.
What was it about? What was it about?
What was your rant? I'd love to hear.
Okay.
You know, I don't like to put stuff out there. You know me, Casey. I like to sit in the back and just be quiet. But it was just fun. It was, you know what, Tom? I decided to like just put something out there that we do in improv and share it. And actually, a lot of people really liked it. They're like, "When you coming back?" And I ranted just about what I ran about. Oh, Publix, going to Publix. You know, nobody's a rule follower. How come nobody follows the rules? So I just did that. It was fun. I had a really good time.
You guys got to go check it out on Facebook. Of course, Ellen has to allow you to be friends with her.
Oh yeah, forget that.
So that this is of some use to Ellen, even though it isn't to any of the rest of us.
Wait, let me get my notebook.
No. Why doesn't somebody catch her up on what's been happening here?
All right, John, 30 seconds, whole meeting, go.
Lee doesn't know what he's talking about, and so I'm gonna have to correct him. And then I wasn't talking, I could put it on the spot, and I started rambling, and then yeah, that was it. That was the meeting.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
You still have 20, 25 seconds.
Summary.
Okay. Oh, you want to go rambling again? Here we go.
Okay, seriously. I just make this of some use. I know it's a long stretch, but who can kind of
So
we're talking about
really what we talked about is there's kind of two main schools of improv right now, Ellen. Right?
And they're all closed.
I want you to see it.
except for the third school of improv, which is Tao, which is only available to 8 people. So you have game-based improv, where you're finding the game, finding the shtick, and playing around in that. That's the UCB method. And then there is the organic method of improv, which is the Tao, which is really what comes from the IO side, the Rosowski side of things, of figuring out what the shiny object is, what the unique thing is, and playing around that. And then we just talked a little bit how both worlds should and can and always live together, because good improv trumps any methodology. If it's good improv, then it's incorporating all the good things of anything that you learn from any school. And then we talked about how Groundlings is a little bit different, how the Annoyance is a little bit different, and then we just talked about facial hair for a little bit, and that's pretty much the meeting. How's your facial hair coming along, Ellen? Pretty good.
Well, I just shaved there, yeah.
okay. Yeah, you know, you saying that, talking about the Groundlings and IO and all that stuff, I just realized that one of the advantages that we have at Sick Puppies or whatever is that we haven't been around for 50 years. So we haven't had a chance, we haven't had the need to say, this is how you do improv. And 50 years later, keep insisting, this is how you do improv. We've been able to, we're like the third generation. We've been able to see what other people have done and harvest the parts of it that we like and create a fruit salad out of the different fruits of improv from different parts of the country. So we're not bound by the rule. I mean, you know, groundlings cannot have somebody in it that says, well, you know, Dave Rosowski makes a lot of sense. They fucking can't. If you do that, you're out of the groundlings. So we are not the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are cool. I could name a whole shitload of them, but we don't have to be them. We can use their shit and say, no, here's how you recombine that to something that's different.
That's great.
Is it?
Let me ask a question. Like, you know, this is directed to, you know, basically Casey and Tom. Like, I mean, I guess it all depends on like who you are, right? Is there a certain system that's for everyone, or is everyone like, if you're a certain type of person, you're going to follow a certain type of path, or is there, or you think it's just like basic rules, and no matter what your background is, who you are, what type of person you are, if you follow the certain specific type of rules, you'll still be okay?
A rule, technically, is a line that's drawn by a ruler. That's what a ruler is for. You have a ruler to draw a rule. Yeah, I've got a legal pad here. It's college ruled. Ruled simply means line, guideline. That's what it is. When someone says it's not a rule, it's just a guideline, they're exactly the same fucking thing. It's not a law, but a rule and a guideline are the same thing. It depends on what you need and who you're with, and it's like saying, I can relate it to music again. I can play country shit. I can play blues shit. I can play rock shit. I can play acoustic shit. All kinds of stuff. And it changes depending on who I'm playing with, how I feel that day, which guitar I happen to be playing, if it's a guitar. So, is there one right music that I should learn? Well, if I'm in a country band, there fucking is. But as someone who isn't, and who can just improvise like we do, I should be able to do any of the things that other people around me are doing, and elevate them, and they elevate me. I mean, what's the point otherwise?
I think if you're to boil it down, because to me everything else is a little tool that you can, not a little tool, but something you can put in your belt, an arsenal of skills or tactics or ways to look at different things. And the more you practice it, the more it just becomes second nature. So I always talk about improv when it comes to baseball. So when you play in a field full of baseball players, they already know what the rules of the baseball game is. So they know that if you hit the ball and it goes flying up in the air and behind you, everyone just relaxes because it's a foul ball. Nothing's going to happen. Nobody's out. Nobody has to run. And it's out of play. So there's no chance of catching it. But if a ball gets hit into the field of play, all the players on the field know where to run or where to go or where they need to stand. And what makes the game interesting, at least in the majors, I mean, if you have a 5-year-old kid, it's interesting in every play because everyone sucks and the game is really fucking hard. But other than watching two guys play catch for 9 innings, when you have a ball that gets hit to a shortstop, you get to watch all the players go where they need to be. And so when you practice enough in improv, no matter who you play with or who you're around, then everyone just kind of knows where they're supposed to go, especially when you're on the same team over a certain amount of time. But when you boil it down, you want to make it really simple. You just have to care more about the thing that the scene is about than anything you've ever cared about before, and make sure that the person that you're in the scene with understands just how much you care about that thing. And hopefully that thing is attached to that character that's in the scene with you. If you can do that, then the scene will be successful. And if the thing you care about is insignificant, you're doing a comedy. And if the thing that you really care about is very significant and really, truly important, then it's drama.
Mm.
And that's it.
Yeah, I use a baseball analogy too, or at least I think in that term sometimes. Someone once asked me, how can you call it a rehearsal if you're not actually rehearsing anything? You're not rehearing anything. I mean, there's no script. How can you rehearse? So, and I tell them it's not really a rehearsal. It's a practice, like a baseball team. So every moment in every baseball game is new and different. But you know when it's time to toss the ball to the shortstop, and he throws it to the first baseman to do a double play. And you know when it's time in a situation where the catcher runs and backs up the first baseman. And you know when somebody bunts where the pitcher runs and where the third baseman goes. So you practice what you'll do in certain eventualities that you can predict. But the rest of the game is not predictable. You don't know what's about to happen.
Hey, what do you guys like? Since all this is happening, what are you guys' thoughts on like online improving and stuff like that? Any thoughts on like how to bring it to next level? You know, this might not be the last time we deal with shit like this. And you know, I know Casey, you've been doing a lot with it, Jeopardy and everything else. You know, Tom, I'm assuming you haven't done that much. But
No.
But any thoughts on like what you could do in this format that would still kind of create the emotions of actual stage presence?
Well, I'll tell you two things. So one, the level of stress that this whole situation has put on us has affected me in such a way that I know what I'd like to try and what I'd like to do. And I haven't been able to bring myself to do it. So I don't know if you guys have all felt that way in your life or your business or what's going on.
Oh,
But I just figured I would throw that out there. If any of you guys are feeling that, where it's like, I know there are things that I should be doing or that now I have the time to do, just know that depression is a real thing and it is awful. So that's part one. Part two is I have been talking to a lot of different improvisers around the country and watching a lot of online improv, and it's bad. Yeah. Like, I don't know how much online improv you guys been watching.
I don't,
but
because I know it.
But I've been watching it to know, to make myself feel better, to say, you know, that group that we talked about earlier tonight, fuck that shit. They've done a couple of online Zoom things like this, and it's awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really bad. So
it's like watching online chess without getting to look at the board.
Ooh. Sounds really fun.
So what I'm working on is essentially the idea of a TV show, but also making it so that the people that are coming in through Zoom, it's not a lot of burden on them. Because as you guys all saw, just logging in, making sure there's enough light on you so that people can see you, just the little things that you have to do to log in and play is enough to go through. Am I too loud?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry. I saw Courtney walk in. Shut up, Lauren.
Take that out.
So when we play the games like Jeopardy or line games or things like this, it works perfect for this because it's panel based. There's no connection amongst characters that are required. So Tom can give his answer, Dan can give his answer, Lee can give his answer, and then you just have a strong host that can just bring it back together, and you have some rules set ahead of time.
I don't know how to end this shit.
I do.
Yeah,
End meeting. Click.
Oh.
Bye.